All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something incredible, the invisible lifelines that literally built empires across West Africa. I'm talking about the ancient trade routes of Hausaland. Think of them as forgotten superhighways, connecting entire cultures and forging kingdoms way, way before any modern maps even existed.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. Put yourself in a world with no cars, no trucks, not even a train. How on earth do you move the stuff you need to survive, let alone build a thriving civilization? We're talking vast deserts, tough terrain. The scale of the challenge was just immense. But the solution they came up with? It was absolutely ingenious, and it changed everything.
And that solution was the caravan. Now, I know what you're picturing, just a line of camels in the sand, right? But it was so much more than that. The caravan was the absolute engine of commerce. It was the vessel for cultural exchange. Honestly, it was the single most important piece of technology that built the great city-states of Hausaland.
Okay, Section 1, the forgotten superhighways. Let's really dig into the scale of what we're talking about here.
So you really have to get the image of a simple, dusty path out of your head. These were not just tracks in the sand. A much better way to think of them is like arteries, just pulsating with life, with goods, with ideas. These were complex, managed networks that stretched all the way from the forest in the south to the Mediterranean coast. They were the threads that wove dozens of different cultures into one massive, sprawling economic web. All right, Section 2, caravans, kings, and commerce. So how did this whole network translate into incredible wealth and power? Well, it's a fascinating story of how merchants ended up becoming kings.
You can really break down the economy of Hausaland into three main pillars. First, you had salt. And I'm not kidding. It was often as valuable as gold. Why? Because it was absolutely essential for preserving food and, well, for life itself. Then, of course, you have gold. This is what financed the incredible wealth of the city-states. And we also have to address the third pillar, a darker part of this history, the trade in enslaved people. It was a tragic but undeniable part of the economic and labor system that generated this wealth.
So you might be wondering, how exactly does trade turn into political power? Well, it was a surprisingly simple but incredibly effective formula. Step 1, control a key part of a trade route, like a major crossroads. Step 2, tax every single caravan that comes through. Step 3, use all that tax money to fund a powerful army. And what does that army do? It secures your control and lets you expand your influence. And just like that, a humble merchant town transforms into a powerful kingdom. And the result of this whole process was just transformative. The best traders, the ones who really mastered these routes and the flow of goods, they didn't just end up rich, they became kings. It was a direct pipeline. Economic power flowed straight into political and military power. Of course, whenever you have that much wealth up for grabs, you're going to have competition. It's just human nature. So bubbling just beneath the surface of all this trade and commerce was this constant, simmering conflict. A kind of silent, strategic war between cities and kingdoms, all of them fighting to control the most lucrative routes.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, crossroads of culture. Because this story is about so much more than just money and power. These routes were a genuine melting pot of ideas.
Think about it. If you're a trader on one of these long journeys, you're not just hauling physical goods. You're also carrying stories, new beliefs, different technologies, whole new ways of seeing the world. So the question is, what else was in that invisible cargo?
And this is the really crucial point. For every tangible thing being traded, salt, gold, textiles, there was an intangible idea that was just as valuable moving right alongside it. So things like Islamic legal principles traveled with the same caravans carrying kola nuts. The Arabic script, which was a total game changer for keeping records and running a government, it moved with the gold. New architectural styles, new philosophies, they all flowed just as freely as any physical product.
And the impact of this? It was massive. The adoption of Arabic script, for example, completely revolutionized how they kept records and created laws. It changed governance forever. Islamic legal systems became woven into the very fabric of their society. And you could literally see this exchange in the amazing new styles of architecture that started popping up in cities like Kano. This wasn't just trade. This was the complete remaking of a culture. Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Ancient Routes, Modern World. Let's connect all of this history to the world we live in right now.
So, it's a totally fair question to ask. Do these ancient superhighways actually matter today? I mean, these routes are centuries old. What relevance could they possibly have in our world of highways and the internet?
Well, the
The surprising answer is yes. Absolutely they do. The echoes of those ancient caravan paths are still all around us. In fact, they map almost perfectly onto modern trade patterns. They help explain the cultural boundaries, even the linguistic zones you see in Nigeria and the region today. The past isn't dead and gone. It's the very foundation of the present. And what's so cool is that this story is still being written. We're still uncovering its secrets. Right now, using amazing new tech like satellite imaging, archaeologists are finding old caravan stops and hidden paths that you'd never see from the ground. They're unearthing these untold stories and realizing the true scale of this incredible network was even bigger than we thought. And that really leaves us with one final fascinating question to chew on. As our technology gets even better and we get to look even closer at these forgotten superhighways, what other secrets are still out there? What stories about the empires they built and the world they created are still buried just beneath the sand waiting for us to find them?